Hello friends, I am Professor Dabiru Sridhar Patnaik. I am Director of the Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies at the Jindal Global Law School of the OP Jindal Global University, and I am also the Executive Director of the Center for South Asian Legal Studies at the Jindal Global Law School. So, today I will be taking this unit on the topic hierarchy of human rights on behalf of the content writer Mr. Nizamuddin Ahmed Siddiqui, an assistant professor of law at the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata. Before we begin, let us look at what are the learning outcomes of this unit, which we all wish to achieve at the end of this unit. The learning outcomes are as follows. This unit is important to learn about the concepts of human rights law in both natural law and positive law. The student will be able to understand the utility of concepts like the definition, value, universality, non-derogability in understanding human rights. And it is also important to understand different debates of hierarchy of human rights and be able to analyze different questions relating to these debates. With an aim to achieve these learning outcomes, let us now briefly understand what this unit talks about. As many of you know, human rights stand as the most recognized form of universal values that the international community has accepted over time. It is grounded in positive law, though they have originated quite recently. Their history goes back to ages. International law technically has recognized human rights as positive rights in the form of human rights treaties, but again it has not shied away from recognizing importantly its natural law roots. In positive law, human rights has found its definition, conception and application, whereas in natural law it has found its universality, its value and non-derogability. In the present unit, we will touch upon all these aspects while also looking into their utility in understanding the most important question, that is the nature of human rights. To begin with, we will discuss the classical debate over generations of human rights. Traced centuries back, the generation debate over human rights technically arose subsequent to the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or the UDHR 1948, as many of you may know. Starting from that point, the international community decided to outline the scope of human rights while also deconstructing or delineating its limits. There were two divergent approaches over here, and which it is good for us to know: the Western approach and the socialist approach. Now, the Western approach it emphasized upon individual freedoms and liberties and regarded human rights as a limitation over the state's authority. The other side, led by the socialists, it identified human rights in community values and located them as collective rights. For them, state was actually the source of all the rights. Since human rights had to be realized in future due to the absence of a recognizable state practice in the past, it was decided to codify human rights by adopting the international instruments that we all know. Now, during the codification process, the same two approaches were employed by the different groups. And finally, after lengthy discussions, it was decided to incorporate these approaches in different instruments. And two treaties were adopted in the process. One, the ICCPR or the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights 1966, and two, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, or popularly known as the ICSCR 1966. Interestingly, both the treaties to the most part expanded the already recognized rights by the UDHR. These treaties were later identified as embodying different generations of human rights. Like for instance, the ICCPR as the first generation rights and the ICSCR as the second generation rights. The list was also further developed with the addition of one more generation of human rights, and that is group rights. Under this head, rights like right to environment, right to development, on which there is a lot of discussion, etc., were identified. Together with the UDHR, the ICCPR and the ICSCR, they constitute the International Bill of Rights. Now, this categorization of human rights as belonging to different generations seem to put relative values upon the different sets of rights. In a sense, this also marked to set up a hierarchy among them. International lawyers who regarded human rights as one complete body of law did not approve this, especially as giving rise to a hierarchy. Even those who identified intra-hierarchy among human rights did not approve prioritizing human rights on this very basis. And whenever we discuss human rights within the ambit or within the framework of the international law, importantly, two fundamental questions arise. What are they? First, what position should human rights occupy within the body of international law? And second, whether human rights can trump other obligations under international law. And here, there is diverse literature which suggests that human rights norms have supremacy over all other norms of international law, full stop. This is a highly relevant observation, keeping into view that human rights enjoy relationships with regimes like the international trade, investment, environment, etc. It therefore becomes very important to discuss the normative function of human rights, how human rights can affect international legal framework. And it is in this connection that the issues of derogability of human rights come into picture. And how relevant is the human rights discourse for our present understanding of international law? How efficient is this discourse in bringing normativity in international law? Both of these questions are answered by the scholars by resorting to the debate on derogability. But before we move on to this debate, it seems necessary to understand what derogability means. It means derogation from human rights obligations would actually mean resorting to practices that are violative of these obligations. The question, where does derogability fit in the present discussion over hierarchy of human rights? It is to be remembered that human rights have evolved as values, having their basis in natural law, as you are all aware. Even where covenants or treaties like the ICCPR and the ICSR were entered into by the states, there was very little state practice which could have enforced those values. And international law, being highly positivist, could not also have recognized them otherwise. Therefore, human rights treaties are based more in promise than in state practice, since practices of these treaties are still subject to differential practices by the states. And let us not forget that. The problem then arises how to identify human rights as universal and also allow reservations upon them. Over here too, scholars have tried to deal with this question by dissecting the body of human rights and separating the core from the rest. It is in this process that they try to discover the non-derogable rights corresponding to the core, from which no claim of exception can be made. Now, this investigation automatically gives rise to discussions over the relative hierarchy among human rights. And the international community has answered the question of fundamental core values differently. For instance, for some, human rights are indivisible, and hence we cannot talk about the fundamental core values, as this gives rise to hierarchy among the different human rights. The other set of scholars think that we can actually separate the core from the rest, and hence identify certain types of rights which cannot be denounced by anyone. This method, of course, gives rise to a kind of an intra-hierarchy within human rights. Some of the non-derogable and core human rights identified by the latter include rights like right to life, prohibition of torture, prohibition of slavery, and non-retroactivity of penal law. Now, interestingly, while taking any of these sides, both set of scholars recognize that human rights do not constitute peremptory norms of international law based in jus cogens and applicable erga omnes obligations. It would be worthwhile to accept that human rights constitute the most basic aspirations of the international community. It has contributed a lot in the normative development of international law and still contributing in its progress. The debate over hierarchy is one of the byproducts of its contributions to general international law. And it should be accepted that the debate will go on till the time the debate over norms and practices continues. With this, my dear friends, we come to an end of this unit. I hope you have an opportunity to learn something and enjoyed it. Thank you very much.